There is a version of my life where I already live in Barcelona. I have visited the city 4 times, at least 1 week each trip, and I know enough to picture it. I know which part of the city I'd want to be in. I have walked it enough times that it already feels familiar. And I've had enough conversations with people who actually live there to know what my life would realistically look like. I have moved 5 times within the past 5 years, and because of that, my friends expect me to announce the next move on any random Tuesday. And because I keep going back to Barcelona, they started questioning what is the reason. But moving to a new city is never as random as it looks. Over the past 5 years, when I was changing countries and cities on a regular basis, I have developed an all inclusive decision making framework that I now go through every time before moving somewhere. Today, I'm running through it out loud, using Barcelona as a life example, and maybe by the end of this video, you'll know whether I'm actually planning a move to Barcelona. If you are new here, hi, my name is Alina. I have been moving around a lot, and now I have finally stopped and built a life from scratch in Spain, finding it with my job in tech, and sharing my journey on this channel. Moving to new places is a skill that I've been forced to develop at some point, meaning I have made enough mistakes to know what actually matters before you move somewhere. The framework I'm sharing today consists of 4 steps. It involves some research and a lot of inner work. The questions I will answer today are: why would I move to Barcelona? What do I need to consider before moving? How would my life actually change from this move? And if I can see myself living in this city. The last point only becomes clear when explained, and in my opinion is the most important step, so consider watching this video till the end. The first question I always ask myself is why would I or why should I move to a new city? Not just why it's a nice city, why it's the right city for me at this specific stage of my life. These are very different questions. For Barcelona, my answer starts with community. There's a lot of people who are going through the same life stage. They have moved away from an old life in their home country and are in process of building new lives that they actually want and like. Barcelona is a place where people go to break patterns, to walk away from their limiting beliefs, and to get as far from the inside the box thinking as possible. There's a lot of events happening for people in tech, for creative professionals, for digital nomads, which I am working in tech, so this community would make sense for me. The city is really good for professional networking. Also, if your health is important to you and you want an active lifestyle, there's communities to keep you going. There are run clubs, dozens of options for group workouts, there's subboarding in the summer, there are many wellness hubs. It's very easy to find people who will encourage you to stay active and to get stronger, at least because you'll be surrounded by very fit people and you will want to live up to their level. There's also the career angle. Barcelona is one of the few cities in Spain where actual offices of big international companies are located. So if you potentially want to get a job locally in Barcelona, it can be possible. The job market is not great, but it goes for anywhere in the world, not only in Barcelona. I would also definitely not move to Barcelona unemployed. That would be not very smart of me. But at the same time, when I was looking for my current job, among the options, companies with offices in Barcelona were showing up very frequently. So it would not be easy to find a local job, but at least it's not impossible like in many other Spanish cities. To be realistic, no one moves to Spain to build a career, even to Barcelona. People go for the better life quality, and it obviously works. There's so many nice coffee shops, rooftops, wellness studios, restaurants. The vibe of the city and everyone in it is very relaxed and in the moment. Even on the toughest work week, you just go outside for a 30-minute walk in the evening and you already feel like you are in the best vacation place possible. Even the architecture alone, every time you go outside, you already feel like you're working through art. It changes how you feel a lot, even if you only go outside to get groceries. I'm not making conclusions based on a random week that I spent there on vacation. I have been to Barcelona 4 times, staying at least 1 week each, and only once it was for vacation. Every other time I was working like usually. I was going through some stressful life stages sometimes, and yet stress cannot get to you that easily when you're surrounded by art, joy, when you walk a lot, or even at least take short breaks in the sun. The second step is, what do I need to figure out before moving? I want to be very specific because a lot of people overcomplicate this step and they end up paralyzed by their own research. In my experience, every move comes down to 3 non-negotiables. You can ignore anything else in your research. The more research you do, the more chances you have to move to the right place, but there's never a guarantee that you will make the right move from the first try. So research at least, or even only, 3 critical points that I will now name. The first is quite obvious, it's documents. You need to figure out which visa you can be on, start the process before moving, if possible, it would be great. You need to make sure that you can legally live, work, and if necessary, study in the place. If I was moving to Barcelona, for me, nothing would change because I'm already in Spain. But when I was initially moving to Spain almost 2 years ago, the biggest part of my research was understanding what I can do with the documents here. The second is housing, and it's not only whether it's affordable, it's about whether it's accessible to someone in your specific situation. I have moved to a city where landlords would not rent to me because I was too young. I have moved to a city where I could not communicate with local landlords and there were no real estate agencies to bridge the gap. I know places where people would not rent to me based on my nationality. In Barcelona specifically, housing is a big issue and the price is not the worst part. It really is expensive. For me, if I moved now, I would pay at least double of what I'm paying, and my current rent is already expensive for me. But except for that, finding a place is really difficult when you don't have a work contract specifically with a Spanish company. But to be fair, it works for the whole country. And yet the biggest housing issue is that there are not nearly enough apartments for everyone who wants to move. For one apartment, there can be 100 applicants, and standing out so that the landlords actually choose you and rent to you is really difficult. Even the real estate agencies, who are usually very keen to make more money, they might not be replying to you because they already have enough clients. I have tried reaching out to them as part of my research for this video, of course, and they did not even reply to me. There are parts of Barcelona where you can find accommodation cheaper and easier, but the cheapest area of the city is very often the most unsafe one, so you need to do research about the areas before moving. In Barcelona, there's an area called Raval, where most people I talked to, they said it's not a safe. The third aspect is asking the right people. It is the easiest step to go wrong, and one of my biggest mistakes that I've made more than once. I was always asking people about the place where I'm moving to, but I didn't realize that I should be asking people similar to me. I once moved to a city because a man more than twice my age told me it's safe. It turned out to not be safe for me because I'm a girl in my early 20s, and the world does not function the same for me and for him. When I research a city now, I ask people with as many shared characteristics as possible. Same age range, same gender, similar immigration status, can be my nationality, not necessarily. Better even both because you never ask just one person. Similar income level and similar work setup. So as I work in tech, I ask other people who work in tech. If you're a student, you ask students. If you have a remote job, you ask remote workers. If you want to find a job locally, find someone who has already been through this process and found a local job. If you are in a difficult financial situation, don't ask people who are financially comfortable. Their version of the city you are moving to will be very different from the version that you will experience, and all your planning and research can go pointless at the moment your one-way flight lands. The third point is the most practical. How would my life actually change if I moved to Barcelona? This step basically involves writing down all the advantages and disadvantages I can come up with, including aspects from my research, budgeting, social situation, logistics, mental state, anything I can come up with. When I think about Barcelona, the most obvious disadvantage is money. I would pay double for what I pay now in rent, and what I pay now is already expensive for me, and I would have to go through a very challenging apartment search. Every time I moved searching for an apartment was the step that was emotionally the most draining for me. I was just a walking ball of stress every time I moved. And it was usually very urgent, so I needed an apartment for now, and I was using services of real estate agencies, and the fees they charge are crazy. And this is why I have paid a lot upfront, spent all my savings that were not huge to begin with, and also after the 6 months of living way below my means, saving everything I can, and being stressed about not having a safety net. On the other hand, if I moved, all that money would probably pay off greatly. More people, more events, a city that almost forces you to go outside and live a more active life. I would also learn Spanish significantly faster because I would be forced to actually use it. Right now, all my friends speak English, so my Spanish lessons stay comfortable and inconsistent. In Barcelona, even more people speak English, obviously. However, they have a very well-known issue with tourists. Personally, I have never encountered it. Everyone I met was always really nice to me, but I can hear that there's more English than Spanish on the streets, so I can understand the frustration of locals, and I would love to stay a respectful citizen by speaking their language. Even now, whenever I go out, I don't feel entitled to people speaking English to me, and my Spanish is enough to order coffee or take care of some very basic stuff. But to live in Barcelona, I would love to speak much better. I have also thought about tourism from a very specific angle. I thought, what better way to imagine what people are going through than to imagine I'm in their place. So I thought, how would I feel if the city I love most and consider home, the city is Kiev, was flooded with tourists. And I thought I would be happy if there were as many people, new businesses opening everywhere, people treating it as a destination that they really want to go and see. What a blessing it would be if it was safe for everyone to come and visit. And I think most Ukrainians would be happy and very welcoming. Even now we say we really hope that all our foreign friends get to come and visit as soon as it gets safe. And also people would be trying to open new businesses and make money from the tourists faster than anyone else. And if you don't make money, you don't blame tourists, you blame yourself for not coming up with a certain business idea faster than someone else. So I understand logically why people in Barcelona feel the way they do. The rent is going up, neighbors are always changing, the city no longer feels like it belongs to them in certain way. But I don't see how hostility towards individual visitors can solve the problem. The problem is never tourism, it's only regulations. It is literally impossible to stop a flow of people who understood how amazing a certain place is, but it definitely needs to be regulated properly. But for my part, I can choose to be a respectful person and learn Spanish, live like a resident rather than a tourist, which is what I'm already doing now in Spain. I understand that I'm just a guest in someone else's place, even if I'm here all the time, but that awareness, this much is within my control. The last step is my favorite, and I consider it the most important, but it's also the most difficult to explain because it is a feeling. Can I actually see myself living in Barcelona? Intuition is a very underrated skill for everyone, but especially for women. Our gut is a second brain, and they say it for a reason. You know very quickly, often even before you can articulate it, when a certain place is right or not for you. There's usually just one moment when you are walking through the city, when you're sitting in some place, or even when you're watching a video about a certain place. You can already feel whether you belong in a place or not. I have learned to trust this feeling over any research, any data, any logical arguments. There's also a very specific exercise that I started doing years ago, completely by accident, and I'd be happy for you to steal it. I was watching a video by Nathaniel Drew. He was talking about living in Portugal. I think it was Portugal. And I remember feeling that at some point this is going to be my life. Not necessarily Portugal, but in general the experience of moving somewhere new, not similar to the place you're coming from, and learning to live from scratch. I was not even planning to move anywhere at that point, but I thought it looks like an interesting experience, and I think it's going to happen for me as well. I have watched this video years ago, and now I live in Spain. I have already visited Portugal, and I can relate to a lot of stuff he was saying about living in a place that is completely unknown to you from the start. So the exercise is to find a video of someone who already lives in the city you're considering to move to. Make sure it's a good storytelling. It's not a highlight video, it's not a travel guide, it's not the top 10 destinations to visit in Barcelona. Watch this video. If you can travel to the place you're planning to move to, that would be perfect. Obviously you can feel it much better, but I know from personal experience that traveling to a place you want to move to is not always possible. I have moved to places that I have never visited before. I have only seen them through the screen and then I moved directly. So after your trip or after the video can be also enough, to be honest. Ask yourself, can I see myself living in this place? How do I feel about it? What do I do on a daily basis? Who are my friends? Is there anything blocking me from enjoying this life? I cannot explain how important all these questions are until you do this inner work yourself, but I can assure you that it's the best you can do for yourself before moving. And these answers are the information you need most before making a decision, because the answers you're getting are the answers about yourself. And you take yourself, your mindset, and your personality to any place you're moving to. The most important understanding about Barcelona and about any other city you're seriously considering is that no place is going to be perfect. Barcelona is expensive. The housing market requires a lot of patience and a realistic budget. It has a complicated relationships with tourism and people who move there. These are obviously real disadvantages that you cannot simply ignore. But it can also have everything you or I need to build exactly the life that we dream of. The question is never whether a city is perfect. It's whether you can live with specific disadvantages and whether what the city offers makes all the disadvantages worth it for you. If you work through all these 4 steps, you'll have more than enough information to make a decision for yourself. Just the decision itself will obviously not transport you to the city you dream of and your dream life, but it is the first really important step towards an intentional life that you really want. In my life, the decision was made for me multiple times, first by wars and by not getting adjusted in certain places, by being too young to deal with certain stress factors when moving. So I have made all these moves and all the mistakes that I'm sharing with you now to hopefully make your experience a bit more enjoyable, because taking a decision is usually half the work, and it's a blessing in some way how that decision decision was taken out of the equation for me, because after this whole roller coaster, I'm at the place where I'm building a life that I like, and I have all the stories, lessons, and experiences to share with you. And if you want to hear more of them, make sure to subscribe not to miss my new videos, and see you back here next week.